All right, this morning we are putting our irrigation system into these new planter beds that I have. And I want to show you some of the different strategies. All sorts of different drip systems that you could potentially put into a garden. And so to start, I have my planter beds here, and I am running drip line through my planter beds with, these are little emitters. What I like about it is you can push them pretty low, and they get, to the ground and below your vegetables, which I like. They do spray a little bit, so you will get some spray on your vegetables, but for the most part, they're pretty low, and I like that. And they provide a lot of water, and that's what I need here in this hot desert of California. So that's why I'm installing these in these beds. These beds are really big, and I want to get really good coverage. So that's why I'm using these. All right, so let me show you how I set it up with my irrigation. Now, I typically would want all of this set up inside of a box, but this is what we're working with for now. But let me show you what I have in here. Oh, I've got some gopher problems. So this is a sign that I got some gophers that have been digging in here, which I don't like at all. They can clog up your valves and ruin the irrigation. I had my dad's irrigation company, a landscaping company, put this in for me, but you install the irrigation valve to a main line. I wouldn't say it's a main line, it's the main irrigation line. And then we have to get it set up to transition between this PVC pipe to my drip line. So I basically, all I did was, it's like playing Legos, honestly. I go to Home Depot and I have all my parts, and I just find the parts that fit together. But I have this 90 here that I stuck on. The irrigation company got me set up with it all the way up to here. So I put this 90 on. Of course, I have to use the purple primer and then the blue glue. And I put it on both sides of my pipe, inside of this and outside of this. Then I just had an extra piece of 3/4 inch pipe that I put here. And then I found this piece here that transitions between your 3/4 inch pipe and your drip tubing. And it's got a male end here. So male and female end. So this side of this piece here is threaded. So this turns into, it screws into this side. So that's how I have it set up for all three of my beds here. And I will put something on top of these to cover them up so they're not just exposed here, but I want to get water to my planter beds as soon as possible. So anyways, I'm gonna clear this all out and turn on my valves and make sure that they're working. But this is how I got it all set up and connected. It's my 3/4 inch by male end by my 0.7 size for the drip tubing. And you can just sort that out at Home Depot. And then I also bought this tubing, which is the 0.7 size drip tubing. So that's how I have it all set up, and it's running, but I'm going to be burying these lines as they go to my planter beds. Yeah, you can see over here how these are set up. And the reason why I put plenty of back and forth of the tubing is because the longer your lines are here, the less pressure that you have for your water. So you want to make sure that you have plenty of coverage. So I have a really wide bed here. In a typical bed, one up and back is probably sufficient. But for this, I wanted to have 3 points of contact. And then we're going to get this one set up over here in just a minute. Okay, so I just turned on each one of the valves to blow it out, and that's a really important step because my pipes have been sitting there and they may have had some rainfall and other dirt and grime that collected in them. And so I blew them out. You can see there that I just kind of blew out the water. Already I just laid all of my heads out. That's my first step after getting the main line in, tubing. And then I have started attaching each one of these small 1/4 inch drip tubing to each of the heads. Alrighty, I just got done doing the irrigation on this bed, and I'm using a drip system that I purchased at Home Depot, but I'm going to show you how I go about doing it. So first I purchased this larger tubing, and this is that 0.7 size, which you can find at Home Depot. You got an end cap here that you can take off, has a filter, but it allows, you can actually flush it out at the end. Sometimes the end gets dirt clots in it, in the end here. But you also need to purchase this smaller 1/4 inch tubing and these heads, the spikes, and they're 360-degree patterns. And they go 0 to 14 gallons per hour, 0 to 15 gallons per hour, around that. So you purchase these, and then you also need one of these hole punchers. You can do without, you can use a, sometimes I even use the end of one of these and poke a hole, but it's hard, it's not easy. So it's nice to have this tool that you can also purchase in Home Depot in that same location of the irrigation supplies. So you poke a hole with this, and then on the tip of one of these you actually have, let me grab one to show you. Here's the bag that I bought from Home Depot of these spikes, and you have, this is what it looks like. So you twist this part off and you put it in the hole in the larger pipe, in the larger tubing. Then you take this tubing and you stick it to one end of the head, the end of the head, and then you stick it to this, but it's inside that pipe. And then, so you'll cut this, I use just scissors to cut this, and then you put it on the end of there, and then you stick it in the ground. So that's how you put these drip bubblers on the end. And I've done that throughout this whole bed, and I like a lot of coverage in my garden, so I have quite a bit of coverage going in the garden. A few things to note with these. So I've had my daughter helping me, and she cut these at an angle. Really, you want them cut flat so they go on these pieces a lot better. And then also she put the holes in the top of the tubing here, which I actually prefer to put them from the side of the tubing so that it's not as obvious, and this can actually be buried a lot easier. So a couple of things to not do when you install, but I'm grateful for my daughter's help, so I'll make do. But you see how these are poking straight up. Usually I go from the side, and then I can bury the line a little bit as well so that it's not disrupting my plants. So anyways, those are some of my little pointers when you're installing these. And then I staggered these heads so that I can try to get a little bit of double coverage. And then when I run this, I'm not going to have to run it very long because I have such good coverage in my planter bed. But the most important things is if they're too far away from each other, the heads, then you're going to have plants that just don't get much water at all, and that's not okay in a garden situation. So you can see I need a couple heads here along the end still, but really you need some good coverage. So each one of these fans out to about here. So if you have this fanning to here and this fanning to here, then you get that double coverage, possibly right there. But you really want them, they don't need to be quite that close because, you know, even though the water's coming to here, it does seep into the ground further. But you want them pretty close. It's not an exact science, it probably is, but in my world it's not an exact science. But I do have a lot of heads. Worst case scenario, I can always put a plug in this if I don't need it and take some of the heads out if I feel like it's got too much coverage. All right, so I have them all installed and now I'm just gonna turn it on and test the coverage. And it's gonna be easy to tell because I'm gonna know what's brown dirt and what's wet dirt. And it's gonna help me know if I have adequate coverage. Go around, make sure I open the heads. And then you can see the ones that maybe were not installed correctly. I got plenty of pressure here. So I might have to add a pressure reducer valve. I was worried about not enough pressure, but I have plenty of pressure. Too much that it's blowing off some of these heads, but if I open them, they might not blow off. So I don't know, you think that I'm gonna have enough coverage here? I think so. This is looking good. This is how I want it to look. All right. Well, every little ounce of this. And at the end, I'm gonna go through and I'm just gonna turn these all to the same setting. Fix those. And then this is the fun part. When you put them back on, sometimes they spray you right in the face. Just got sprayed. So I flooded my area here, but you can see it's all wet. So there was plenty of water coverage with this many heads. I hope you enjoyed my video about how to put irrigation into your garden. And what's cool about this system is it actually works well in the rest of your landscaping as well. It does not have to be just in a garden setting. So this video works for gardens in the sense of a vegetable garden, but in a bed, but it also works for your landscaping, for flower beds, different types of plants and landscaping that you have for your property. I'm also going to show you what I have planned for my next video, which is this garden bed here, if you can see. And I also have a different irrigation set up in this garden bed. So in my smaller garden beds, I have a system that I created on my own, and maybe other people already do it before me, but I, with my landscaping and irrigation knowledge, I created this watering system so that I can get really good coverage in these smaller beds, and it's also set up on this timer clock, which it's been raining, so I have it off. But each one of my beds has its own timer, and it's a very effective way to manage your vegetable garden. So that's going to be my next video, and please click on the link so that you can watch my next video.